tes 1 2 1 2 tes 1 2 1 2. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, before we proceed, let us begin this event by recitation of Al-Fatiha. Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Malaysian Graduate School of Entrepreneurship and Business, I am delighted to welcome all of you today to our Mgseb Biztalk. Whether you are here with us in person or joining us virtually, we are honored to have you with us this morning for what promises to be enlightening and engaging session. Ladies and gentlemen, today's Mgseb Biztalk focuses on a topic of critical importance, the importance of financial stability, the role of regulators. In an ever-changing global economy, understanding the role that regulators play in maintaining financial stability is crucial, not just for policymakers, but for all of us who are affected by their decision. We are fortunate here to have with us today a distinguished speaker, a man who has vast experience and deep insight into the financial sector, Datuk Shamsuddin Mohd Mahayidin, Independent Non-Executive Director of Perbadanan Nasional Berhad PERNAS. I believe Datuk Shamsuddin has contributed a vital role in shaping financial policies in Malaysia, and we are eager to hear his perspective on this topic. Guiding our discussion today is none other than our very own, the esteemed Datuk Professor Dr. Nik Mahiran binti Nik Muhammad, Professor at the Faculty Entrepreneurship and Business, and of course, she is very familiar among UMK citizens as a former Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International UMK. Her expertise and experience will ensure a rich and productive conversation. Before I pass the floor to Datuk Nik, okay, let me introduce about her first. Okay, Datuk Prof. Dr. Nik Mahiran binti Nik Muhammad, prior to joining UMK, she started her career as an investment analyst at Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange KLSE, an Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, IRB. She holds a doctorate in business administration, specialized in investment decision-making from University Science Malaysia, Master of Business Administration, Bachelor of Business Administration, majoring in finance from University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. Milwaukee ke, Prof? Milwaukee, USA. She was also seeking a postdoctoral position and a visiting honorary at University of Melbourne, Australia. Professionally, she is a CITM, Chartered Institute Taxation of Malaysia, FPAM, Financial Planning Association of Malaysia, Institute of Bankers Malaysia, IBBM, alumni of International Volunteer Leadership Program, IVLP of United States, and a distinguished fellow of Global Strategic Management Incorporation, USA. Apart from teaching and research, she is also a distinguished speaker, trainer, and consultant in the area of financial behavior, financial psychology, investment decision, entrepreneurship, and professional image. She is co-founder of Beehive Malaysia and a founder of Women Entrepreneurship Institute, WEC, a project under United States of Government for Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship for Youth and Women. Before we begin, I would like to inform everyone, for those who join us online, that we will have a Q&A session towards the end of the talk. And please feel free to note down any question you may have, and we will address them later. Virtual attendees, you can submit your question in the chat box, and we will do our best to include them into our discussion. Without further ado, I would like to invite our moderator, Datuk Professor Dr. Nik Mahiran binti Nik Muhammad, to take the floor and kickstart today's Mgseb Biztalk. Please welcome Datuk.
Thank you. Thank you, Atika, our mistress of ceremony, masters of ceremony for today. Okay, thank you so much for everyone who are be able to come and, be with us today. And of course, I would like to thank also Datuk Shamsuddin Mohd Mahayidin, to be with us today. I think it's not that easy to get somebody who are very, I could say, busy with all the community works and also, still contributing to Bank Negara. So let me read a little bit of your CV, which I know that everybody knows, our speakers today, but officially let me read a little bit of background of Datuk Shamsuddin. Education level, okay, first of all, he graduate from Manchester Business School, the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, in Masters of Business Administration, and degree from Lakehead University, Ontario, Canada, Bachelor of Administration in the Management System. Okay, and his vast experience is with Bank Negara. So he was, once upon a time, I think since 2018 until 2023, last year, was the Chief Service Officer of Bank Negara Malaysia. And before that, also in Bank Negara. So you are all the while in Bank Negara, yeah? So I think I don't have to read so many vast experience of Datuk, because I think when we talk about regulatories, I think it's all in his fingertips. So being in Bank Negara, I'm sure, starting from the beginning, if I could say that you have been with Bank Negara since 1985. That means the first recession that we have during big recession of Malaysia, you were there. So I guess without further ado, I think I don't have to read. If in 1985, if you are still in Bank Negara until last year, definitely, he will share with us all the experience that he got in terms of the volatility of our economy and also the ups and downs of our economic issues and so on. So, okay, just housekeeping a little bit, all right? I think I'm sure even though we have just few here, I saw Datuk Azizi behind there, a lot of questions maybe being asked after this. I am so afraid that, Datuk Azizi will ask so many questions, that Dr. Zul is here also. So I am hoping that there will be a lot of questions asking by the floor. and also from those who are online will be asked on your comment. So I will give half an hour opportunity for Datuk to speak on the specific topic that we are going to share today, the importance of financial stability, the role of regulators. And then after that, I will throw a few questions to Datuk, probably on the issue that we are talking, specifically on regulatory as well as the common knowledge for finance students. I saw that there's quite many of DBAs and master students as well. And after that, I will open to the floor if there's any question. So we are going to finish by 1 o'clock. So I think, Datuk, without further ado, the floor is yours. So either you want to speak here or at the rostrum is up to you. Okay, sila.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First, I'd like to thank Puan Atika for the introduction and also Datuk Professor for the introduction of myself. As she mentioned, I was with Bank Negara from 1985. I recall after coming back daripada belajar in Canada, at that time the job market was quite challenging. The scheme, I do not know whether you know that the SKS, Scheme Khidmat Sementara, that was introduced by the government for those graduates that come back and for those graduate in the country during that time. But I was lucky enough to be called by Bank Negara for an interview. So I took a bus from my house from Pasir Putih. I'm from Kelantan, so still boleh catch at Kelantan. But so there I started in Bank Negara in September 1985. So a lot of people ask me why you stay such a long time in Bank Negara. The one thing that I can say is there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning that I have obtained from my 38 years. 38 years is a long time. But the exposure that I got from places to places really make the difference. I'm not an expert in regulation and everything because it's so huge. We are talking about economy, we're talking about financial market, we are talking about development, inclusion. There's so many things that the role of central bank. But it is an interesting place for you to learn and for you to make a difference. The topic that I chose today is, I thought, quite interesting because not many people talk about financial stability. Normally, attention is paid to economy. We talk about how the economy is doing, the monetary policy. Because if we look at the world, we have the economy, we have the other element in the economy that play an important part in making sure that the economy can be sustainable. So the intent here is to have that conversation, Datuk Prof, with all. I'm also learning. I'm also doing a certification in Islamic finance now, just to know a little bit more about Sharia. Now I am a member of the board of PERNAS, also on OCBC Bank, and on Federation of Investment Managers. I think this one maybe not many people will know, Federation of Investment Manager that look after the unit trust consultants. Many people ask me, why are you doing all these things? It's more about contribution, it's more about learning, it's more about keeping yourself busy. I mean, if you look at people that retire, sometimes after a while they become quite lazy and become quite tired with certain things. And I hope that by engaging with Datuk Prof, the academician, I get a bit of idea going forward. So Maybe you can move to the next slide, please. I think the slide's gone through from inside. Next, please. Okay, when we talk about financial stability, people will remember about a crisis. Datuk Prof talked about 1985, the recession that we went through, challenges that we went through. But over the years, since the Great Depression in 1929, there are many things that has happened in the financial market. 1929, then we have the Black Monday in 87. Then we have the 1997 crisis. Then we talk about the global financial crisis in 2008. And last year in the UK, there was this issue about pension fund. So we are not going to move away from this situation. There will be things that is coming up. I mean, recently also there's this geopolitical issue that we face. So how do we as a regulator look at this financial stability based on the past experience that we have? So that is my intent here, is just to give a little bit of idea from the crisis that we faced in the past. How do we look at and shape the role of regulator and also central bank? Next, please. Next. Okay, financial stability. The one thing that is focused is about financial intermediation. So maknanya, the meaning is, if we have an entrepreneur that would like to obtain financing, there is this ability for the financial institution to provide, to intermediate the finance. Of course, in some countries, they have different definition. In the US, they use the term defining the opposite way, financial instability. It's more on looking at the issue about the fracture in the market, how market crack because of certain event. When we look at the historical perspective of financial stability, under normal circumstances, in many countries, attention is not given to financial stability. What is more focused on is on economy. So if we look at the 2008 crisis, global financial crisis that came out of the US, I was actually in New York, heading New York office from 2001 to 2006. So at that time, towards 2006 and going forward, there was a lot of this lending for mortgages in the US. So 2008, major crisis in the US that came from the issue about subprime lending, mortgage. And Alan Greenspan, I think most of us would know Alan Greenspan, one of the famous Federal Reserve chairman. He admitted that he made a mistake for trusting the market. So free market ni biasanya they talk about macam mana market will work on its own, market will correct itself. But in reality, Greenspan kata the market failed me. So maknanya the meaning is market does not work in perfection. There are other elements that cause the market to be to crack, to fracture. So there was that time from 2008 onwards, there was a lot of discussion about the financial stability and how much should we pay attention on this financial stability. So from there, internationally, there's a lot of discussion about market governance rising from all this failure. The failure cost in the US, I think the cost of the global financial crisis was more than 2 trillion. We have seen the closure of big banks, like Lehman Brothers. But the one thing that a lot of people were discussing at that time, that the CEO of major banks didn't get any so-called brands off. So there was that issue about how regulator, in the US, the action that they have taken. So the consequences of instability, as I mentioned, there's a lot of issue pertaining to social dislocation, the loss of jobs, lack of financing for investment, even masa crisis, Asian financial crisis. I think a lot of us are familiar with the Asian financial crisis. July 1997 started in Thailand. So macam mana it created the ripple effect to Indonesia, Korea, Malaysia. So it was a big thing. And I remember at that time I just came back from my study. I finished my master's in the UK, came back. A year after that, there was this crisis. So, if you look at a lot of articles have been written about Asian financial crisis, but the big lesson learned from that crisis is about how do we manage financial market? How do we undertake the surveillance of the financial market? How do we ensure that preemptive action can be taken? So these are all the lessons that we have learned. So from there, from all those lessons that we have learned, in the case of Bank Negara Malaysia, there are three pillars of central banking that we look at. Number one is about monetary stability. Monetary stability ni biasanya we look at the issue about interest rate. Yeah. The next one is financial stability, and the third pillar is efficient payment system. So these are the three core elements of a central bank. And in 2009, Bank Negara Malaysia enacted the new Akta Central Banking Act, which clearly we mentioned about this role: financial stability, monetary stability, and efficient payment system. And through that mandate given in the from the Act, the strengthening of the financial stability through the surveillance that we have. So, crisis, learning, then we talk about the action taken, then how do we ensure that in going forward that we are able to identify potential issues in the market. The recent event 2023, kalau kita tengok in the market, Datuk Prof, there is this issue about geopolitical. There's concern about this depreciating currency. They are also concerned about economic effect. They are concerned about protectionism. So all this need to be considered when we look at our surveillance. There is this micro surveillance dengan micro surveillance. Macro surveillance is kita tengok from the overall economy. Micro surveillance, we look at the individual institution. Macam kita belajar macroeconomic dengan microeconomic. So micro is looking at the behavior of the firm. Sometimes the behavior of the firm can also create problem to the bigger economy. And if we recall the Enron in the US, Enron case, that is the specific firm issues. So how does that created issues to the bigger market? So in the case of a central bank, we look at macro surveillance, we look at micro surveillance. the other aspect of the financial stability is how do we do communication? Sometimes the things that is good, but the communication channel is not, the way we communicate is not good, the outcome is suboptimal. So in financial stability, or even in the other part of the regulatory framework, communication channel is very important. So when we look at masa krisis lah kita tengok, we look at during the crisis time, how we communicate really make a big difference in terms of the understanding of the market players. So there is this cartoon lah, when I was talking to my friend last time, he was sharing this story. This guy works in the Wall Street. So he took time off, nak balik, going home early. So he said to his friend, goodbye. Someone heard goodbye means it's a stock that is good for people to buy. So yeah, he wanted to say goodbye. Goodbye means he wants to leave the place. But the people take it that is saying that, okay, something that is worth buying. So the point here is sometimes communication makes a big difference. So in the work of regulatory body, communication is very key, especially in the current days where people can look at things differently, the words that we use, the kind of channel that we use. So my experience in Banagara when I was the director of foreign exchange department, look at the inflows and outflows. So when we introduced the assistance measures back in 1998, of course, the capital control, the ability of people to move around. So a lot of people were angry. People were not, investors were not satisfied. So there's a lot of engagement that is required. So the other point then that I would like to mention before I stop, Datuk, is about financial inclusion. Financial inclusion and financial stability. When we talk about financial stability and the process of intermediation, financial intermediation, the agenda of financial inclusion, building entrepreneur, is very critical, because the proportion of the size of SME contribution to the economy is growing. So by having good financial intermediation with the aim of creating a more sustainable and stable SME, that will certainly help the financial stability. Because the process of financial intermediation may be good, but if it is not able to be done in a widespread manner to all the so-called stakeholders, if there is a breakdown in terms of that part, people are not getting financing, people are not able to access financing, then the economy may not be growing in a more sustainable and in a way that is benefiting everyone. So if we look at the agenda that we have, the country has in terms of financial inclusion, and I'm sure in the university, this building the entrepreneur is very critical, because entrepreneur will drive the economy. So how would financial inclusion help entrepreneur and at the same time ultimately ensure the goal of financial stability? That, in my view, is very critical. So from helping the SME, from helping the entrepreneur to build new areas with proper financing, with proper education, it will certainly bring benefit to the overall economy. Maybe I will stop here. Then we can go into other discussion surrounding the topics. In fact, I prepared a lot of slides. It may go beyond 2-3 hours lah. Yeah. So but I'm happy to take any question. There are questions that I may not be able to answer. But I leave it to Datuk Prof.
No, for sure you can answer all questions. Okay. Thank you, Datuk. It's quite dry because it's about finance. You know, many who are not in the field of finance probably new terms that you are listening to. But if you know finance well, you'll be, we love it. Okay. Okay. All right. My first question. Okay. Before I open to the floor, we know that when you are saying that in 1985 you get opportunity to work with Bank Negara, I salute you. Because during that time, unemployment rate is very high. It's about 7%. Okay, so you must be the lucky one. Mak ayah tu agaknya, yeah. So if we want to compare, because just now Dato' was talking about the difference between economic stability versus financial stability. So when we go to the chronology of, you know, maybe many of them tak beranak, tak lahir lagi kot 1985. Okay, but 1985 is the worst recession, which is I can categorize that as economic recession, as compared to 1998, which is more on financial stability. But when we're looking at this stability, either economic or finance, there are so many. We name it as economic recession, financial crisis, housing bubbles. You know, 2008 is subprime crisis, is housing bubbles. It all related to government regulatory, which is, I could say, mistakes that are being made by the government. Maybe Dato' will be, co-pass after this, yeah? And 2011, we're also having another crisis, more towards global crisis, when something like no more pension given, like what we are trying to do in Malaysia as well. So if Datuk can explain, throughout the years what is happening and what you think might happen with the current situation that we have now, with the higher salary given to government servant, mana kerajaan nak dapat duit ni? Minimum wage that will be, asked by MTUC. So where are we heading, Datuk? But I would like just to share with you, the unemployment rate by June 2024 is decreasing to 3.3. And the currency rates is also increasing from 4.6 to 4.4 today. So, macam mana kita, Datuk? Where are we heading? Are we stable or are we in turmoil? So, what is your point of view?
Okay, terima kasih. It's a very heavy question. My answer is a personal view, because I'm no longer with any institution, even though I'm with PERNAS, OCBC, and FIB. But this is my personal view about the question that Datuk Prof asked us now. I mean, if we look at the economic structure, if we look at the governance structure that we have nowadays, and compare that to during the crisis time, I think we are far better now in terms of the governance of the corporate world. So that bit, I think we have done quite well. I think even if you look at the financial sector, I think the transformation over the years, the governance process that has been instituted, not only in Malaysia, but across the globe, we have seen massive changes. And in fact, if we look at major countries like the US, I think the 2008, 2011 crisis has provided them with the the so-called requirement to introduce new regulation, the Dodd-Frank Act, to provide them, I mean, to ensure that the institution are a little bit more behaving. As I said earlier, even Alan Greenspan also admitted that there was this failure in terms of free market mechanism. So that element has been clearly instituted in most part of the economy, and especially in Malaysia. If you look at even the capital market, the financial market, I think the governance process has been strengthened. For example, like as a board member of a listed company, I think the fiduciary responsibility is not as easy as before. I mean, there are board members that can go to jail for certain things. So the element of governance is already there. Then we talk about the macroeconomic structure. So, I mean, Datuk Prof mentioned about future direction. Challenges can come from within, challenges can come from outside. The recent episode of geopolitical uncertainty has created certain economic so-called pressure on some countries. The tension between US, China could still persist going forward. US is going to have a new president after the next election. So that is also another wild card that we have to look at. So what would that do to the overall political landscape? How is the political situation going to have an impact on the economy? So that is international. But for Malaysia, I mean, recently Bank Negara came out with the second quarter numbers. I think it looks very good. I think very clear that the trajectory for more strengthened economic performance is there. Ringgit, as Datuk Prof mentioned, has strengthened. I think clearly Bank Negara explained in the press release about the basis for that movement. So my view that we are looking at something that is certainly very positive, but more importantly is what is our role? What is our role in making sure that all this plan can be executed well? So good plan is not going to be good if the execution is poor. So it's more about execution. On the issue of wage, I mean, wage issue has been discussed for quite some time now. 2013, there was some discussion about, I think there was this minimum wage act or something like that was introduced in 2013, where the review of minimum wage will take place every 2 years. So there's a lot of debate about whether the current level of wage of 1,500 is sufficient, is reflective of what we should get. But the key issue also that when we talk about wage is about productivity. How do you ensure that higher wage reflect higher productivity? Of course, if you pay something that is low, you are actually suppressing productivity. People don't want to work extra because the wage is low. So there's always that chicken and egg. Again, I mean, how do you make sure that if I pay you more, I get more from you? There's always that debate. Last year, government introduced this PWP. They call it the progressive wage policy. Okay, I think that is a step in the right direction in my view, to make sure that there is always this discussion about how do we look at the current wage level. Bank Negara came out with a study that the minimum wage should be around 2007 for a single person. UNICEF talk about 2001. So there's this discussion about wages that we have now is low. But I think there's also another discussion. There's another side of the coin that talks about productivity. We need to make sure that is this element of productivity. Of course, there is another factor about the foreign labor. I mean, wage is not pressured to be upward because of certain issue about foreign labor. So how do we tackle the issue?
Okay. Okay, talking about wage, very interesting. When we are talking about the role of Bank Negara or role of the government per se, yeah. If we look at Singapore, they don't have a specific minimum wage for all sectors. So it's based on the industry. So say for example, because we know that of course employee wants higher wage, but the employer may reluctance of paying more, maybe due to productivities and everything. But I could say that being a government, they have to fulfill both employee and employers. So in terms of regulation by Bank Negara, do you think it will be good if we follow Singapore in a way that that's a minimum wage, but it will be differ, maybe by sector or maybe by region? Or do you have any, ideas of what is actually the framework of minimum wage that the government is trying to propose in a way so that we can fulfill the needs of both employee and employers? Talking about regulatory bodies, yeah.
Okay. I mean, maybe this topic of minimum wage is outside the purview
Correct.
of the central bank. But from my perspective, if we look at minimum wage, if you talk about the human resource ministry, I think it's very clear that there is this need for private sector, especially to really look at the current wage level that is given to Malaysian. So that's that drive by the government. And in the International Labour Organization, they also have the convention that require a country to have regulation on minimum wage. Because this is something that is required to protect the well-being of employees, especially in a country where there is no strong unions. So if there is no strong union, who will fight for the rights of the employees? So ILO came out with that regulation long time ago, I think 1970s, if I'm not mistaken. So there is that requirement for protection of the rights of employees. And looking at what the government is doing now, I think there is a lot of discussion about something needs to be done. In Singapore, they also have something like progressive wage policy, but they have a clear mandate given to certain sector. This is the minimum wage, you have to follow, something like that. Of course, there's a lot of debate. I mean, when there is the requirement to do minimum wage, of course, we talk about the productivity just now. It's not an easy subject. So how would the firm move when minimum wage would have an impact on their bottom line? I read the news that one of the minister talk about, one of the minister talk about to have firm which are very profitable, to please look at least to see how they can implement this minimum wage. So policy is one thing, the implementation by the private firm is very important. So there is this requirement also for the company to look at this issue so that the aspiration to have a better wage can be achieved.
Okay, great. Okay, the reason why I highlight the issue of minimum wage and everything because it is actually, I don't know whether it's a chicken or it's an egg, because it creates purchasing power. So the purchasing power is actually the one who relate to the economic or the financial sustainability. So now, let's say the debates, because netizen, I could say, will never be happy of whatever being done by the government or whatsoever. When we are talking about minimum wage, when we are talking about acceleration of wages by the government sectors, there are always negative connotation about it. Because in the short term, yes, it will increase purchasing power, and of course the economy will be circulated, but in the long term, maybe it will be burden to the government. So back to the government sectors who will receive the extra wages, I could say. What is your comment on this? How do you think that the government will cope with it, and where will the government get the money to pay all this, and how does it, I could say, affect the economy in the short term and long term?
Okay, I think this is a question that a bit difficult to answer on the government.
No. I mean, your point of view in
Yeah,
terms of, based on your experience.
I am pretty sure that when we talk about government financial position, everything is taken care of. So I put it this way: the certain subsidy has been taken, so that is the plus. So there are expenses that needs to be incurred by the government. So if the pluses and the minuses, if we look at both sides of the balance sheet, so we can see that
It's balance.
that I mean, we are still not having the balanced budget, but still, the overall, in my view, government has the ability to be able to take up all the additional costs.
Your advice to the government sectors when you receive extra money, what should they do? Should they spend or should they save?
I think they should work more.
Talking about inclusion, okay.
They should work more.
Yeah, definitely. Productivity.
Yeah. It's always that difficulty. I mean, this is the challenge that when we talk about paying more, somebody said you should do more with less. Leverage on technology. And so there's always the element. So when the productivity is not reflected from the increase in the salary, that is something that will be worrisome. We should be worried. So it's just like bila kita, when you make an investment decision, so the ROI is not there. The ROI is not there. So to me, when we talk about increase in salary, getting more, okay, but
Something to give back to the government, definitely.
Definitely. That is the element. So I've talked to some of my friends who's having some business. They say, okay, can pay more, but do more. Do more.
Yeah.
Datuk,
I like to relate this with financial inclusion.
Yeah.
So when we talk about financial inclusion, we always talk about the micropreneurs, those who are never had, bank accounts, but those who are never invest. When we talk about financial inclusion, it's about debt or it's about investment. So back to these government sectors who are going to get extra from the raise of the salary. So what do you advise when we talk about financial inclusion in terms of, investment? Because that is related to, enhance the financial stability of the country as well. The economies of scale that we given through the independent bodies of, the citizen.
Yeah. I think one thing that we all ought to remember is money that we get now is also meant for us to remain sustainable in the future. I mean, those days when we were small, we talk about savings. We look at the gross national savings. Those days, in the statistics, normally we look at the GNS, the gross national saving. How much people save? And we were told that we need to save. I mean, to me, use it for the right purpose. Use it for the right purpose. So it's always that need to make sure that when you get some additional so-called reward, think wisely and make sure that you keep it for the right purpose. Sometimes people get bonuses, they spend on certain things. It's okay. I mean, it's good to reward yourself. You work hard, reward yourself, make yourself and your family happy, it's fine. But there are things that sometimes you go beyond your means. When you go beyond your means, then you would have problem. So financial education is also very critical. Those days when we go to the bank, we want to borrow, they ask less questions those days. But now there's a lot of things that you need to look at. We look at disposable income, not the upper line.
Total income.
You need to look at the bottom line. How much is your take-home pay? Sometimes you cannot carry more than what your strength is. So that is very important. So my view is, I think everyone is very happy. Even though for me, I mean, we don't have any pensions. I mean, we don't have any pension like government, but it is okay. For my kids, they get some benefit. So basically, it's for them to make sure that the money is used wisely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dengar nasihat pakar. Okay, I think I would like to open to question from the floor. Anybody? Okay, share your name. Apa pensyarah ke, student ke, sila.
Assalamualaikum. Boleh dengar. Yang dihormati Datuk Shamsuddin bin Mohd Mahayidin, Director of Perbadanan Nasional Berhad PERNAS, dan Datuk Prof. Nik Mahiran. Thank you so much for being here today, enlightening us with many things about financial stability. Now, I tend to agree with Datuk Shamsuddin. Oh, okay. Nama saya Azian binti Othman. I'm a student here trying to do my PhD, insyaAllah tahun ni. And I was a banker with Maybank. Okay. Now, I tend to agree with Datuk Shamsuddin's point regarding financial stability, financial inclusiveness. On SME, you mentioned specifically SME, drivers of the economic for the country. Now, like you say, financial inclusiveness with regard to SME, especially the microeconomic sectors, which are more than 70%, as compared to small, which is slightly bigger, and lower amount for the larger sector. Their sustainability, their survival rate is about 1 to 5 years. Now, I feel that we have the commercial bank, Maybank, CIMB, then we have like Bank Pembangunan, and then we have SME Bank. But we are still not up to there. I'm a banker. I know when you want to get money from me, what I need from you, yes, your disposable income and all that. But in terms of SME, if their main challenge is financial, besides skill, the bank is still not able to provide something, tangible that can lead them to survive within the first 5 years. Now, can we think of something sebagai role of regulator, how we can assist this large segment of the entrepreneurship for the economy? Thank you.
Okay, I recap. All right. It's about issue of sustainability of SME. So many SMEs going kaput for less than 5 years. So how can a bank help? Maybe giving a lower loan, a lower rate, interest rate of loan or something like that. So your experience.
I think this is about social finance, right? I think the concept of social finance has been discussed quite a bit over the recent years. When we talk about social finance, it's more about helping. Okay. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with iTekat. The concept of using certain funds to help a certain group of people. So there are opportunities from various program that is introduced for certain group of people under the concept of social finance. And this concept of social finance, in my view, is very interesting. But importantly is how do you help the micro SME to survive? So when we're talking about the life span from 1 to 5 years, there's certain issue that these people face. I mean, I'm now with Perbadanan Nasional Berhad PERNAS. They are responsible to develop franchise business. And we are also talking about not big company. So the focus on education for them to really understand. So there's a bit of hand-holding. So when you provide financing to them, it's not just about giving finance. It's also about hand-holding. There are challenges in between that they face. So the mechanism is there, but the implementation could be a little bit challenging. There are banks that also look at focus on entrepreneur. There are banks that look at that. They're also looking at having this, what they call a serial entrepreneurship. I mean, from small, they grow bigger. And there are many success stories. So from this success story, one of the elements that I understand is about these people understanding the changing market, the new way of doing things. So commercial bank is a source of funding. There are other opportunities that can be used by that group of people under the concept of social finance.
I guess there's quite a lot of, agency, financial agency that help this micro, not just SME bank or even CGC. It's just that the entrepreneurs must know where to search for it. And definitely it's all about how the entrepreneur themselves, should grow themselves. All right. Any more questions? Thank you.
Sorry, it's about awareness. Awareness, and it's about the ability to understand what would be required to be sustainable.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
When you say awareness, okay, that part, sorry, I tend to talk a bit more. When we say awareness, I think that is one of the criteria that the government is not creating enough for the SME, especially at the bottom line.
The promotion is less.
Yeah, no, promotion in terms of assistance given. Memang kita laungkan, memang kerajaan ada bagi tahu polisi ni, polisi tu, tekun, pemandu and so forth, CGC and so forth. Tapi awareness tu, how you want to create to the people who wants to start entrepreneurship so that they can survive within the next 5 years. Within the next 5 years, they are within awareness that there are assistance and help from the government or from whatever agencies that surrounding them. Yang tu salah satu faktor yang saya setuju dengan Datuk. Okay?
Yeah.
Besides financial,
So, I mean, this effort will be continuous. Effort to build the awareness among everyone. So it's continuous. And hopefully with the new channel of communication, I think almost everyone have got a TikTok account, Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
So that really helps. That really helps. And I'm pretty sure that most government agency would have, they use these channels. So with the awareness, with the ability for people to understand better in terms of how to be successful, I'm pretty sure that we can see a better SME going forward.
Yeah. And maybe I can add a little bit, for maybe entrepreneurs who are online watching us today. There's a lot of agency that is governed and help these entrepreneurs. Tekun have their own groups of entrepreneurs under them, Mara and so on. So I think in terms of awareness, I could say that's quite sufficient that has been given. It's just how the entrepreneur should dig deeply into it. So social media is everywhere for them to search, So digital now is a very good platform for them to create or to understand what has been offered by the country.
Yeah.
So, okay, any question? More? One more? Okay, we have Datuk Azizi. So tak payah perkenalkan diri, kami dah kenal.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Terima kasih Datuk for the very interesting sharing. Malaysia was known as the ASEAN Tigers back in 90s, where we then reached the upper middle income
Yeah.
group. But then somehow we stuck. We cannot move beyond that. That was quoted by one professor from Harvard, Richard Vitter. And then there's another study as well from another professor from Harvard that Malaysian productivity is actually going down. And in order for us to break the where we are is to move towards innovation-driven entrepreneurship backed by science and technology. And due to that, I think much have been done by the government, but we have yet to see the result. And I'd like to quote what the chief economist of the World Bank of Malaysia, Apu Vasangi, said that we have all these beautiful policies, etc., but the problem is with the execution and also the coordination, monitoring, etc. Because in Malaysia, we have so many agencies that are been given the responsibilities for that purpose. Jadinya, that's one thing. I would like to hear your thoughts on that comment. The second is that in terms of the funding itself, now I would like to compare one. Singapore pump in like for R&D, universities, they have very few universities, about 2 billion Sing dollar. And Malaysia over the past, I think, 5, 6, 7 years back, the average of funding given to the universities is only 425 million ringgit. And in the investment for innovation-driven R&D is probably we need much bigger than that. So that might, and then we have to divide into too many institutions. So that might affect the effectiveness of the programs. Because I've been involved in quite a number of SMEs helping the startup, and some of the startup companies, they have to go out to get bigger grants. We do have grants here, but the amount is pretty small. If you want to scale up, you have to go out, go for the foreign VCs to get a bigger grant. So that's what I heard from the SMEs that I was involved in. So what's your thought on that?
Yeah. Thank you, Dato'. Yeah. Dato' Azizi, thank you. I think the first question is very interesting. When we talk about used to be Tiger and where we are now. I think prior to the crisis, there's a lot of article written about the Asian miracles. Then the Tom Yam Goong crisis started in Thailand. This issue about productivity has always been discussed. And it is, in my view, is something that is very true. That we need to look at how to drive the economy in a more productive way. And then we talk about the innovation. How do we innovate ourselves to move away? I mean, last time we talked about the middle income trap. There was this discussion about how do we come out from that middle income trap. There's this. Then after that, we talk about through technology, through the use of technology, leveraging on technology, innovation. then who's measuring the achievement? Are we really achieving the goal or the aim that we have set before? So that is one thing. On the research grant, all those things, yeah, I mean, there's some country that provided a lot of fund for research, R&D. Of course, you mentioned, Datuk, you mentioned about Singapore. Singapore is also quite known for certain specialized research, R&D. There are companies that went to Singapore, set up in Singapore the R&D. So that is something that we have that capability. We have people. We have capable people that can also do the same thing. I believe in Singapore there is a lot of involvement of private sector. So this is something that the big companies in Malaysia should also do. There also this argument that you cannot have too many R&D centers. You can only have one in the region. So there is that forces that sometimes say, okay, since I have already set up in country A, I don't have to do it in some other country. But having said that, it does not mean that the opportunity, the grant should not be given to our higher education to look at certain area, certain niche that we have. There are many things that we can do. So I'm with you in terms of hoping that more money can be put into play when it comes to R&D. So I agree with you that this is something that needs to be discussed. And clearly, the collaboration between the private sector also need to be enhanced. So that the real R&D, where it can be implemented, can be done. There are R&D that is being planned, but the difficulty is in terms of translation into the real product and services. So hopefully, I think the discussion among the higher education should be focused on how do we move this agenda, the STEM agenda, the agenda of making sure that we have people, the right people to do it. Of course, when you have X amount of allocation and you divide by the many numbers of higher institution, so the impact is not going to be big. So that is something that we need to really look at. To be impactful, you need to have good amount of financial resources.
From bank negara point of view, is it possible kalau katalah the government came up with something like, we have very profitable GLCs, many of them are making billions of profit. If we can take 1% of their profit, put it into the R&D, I think that would make a big difference as well. But I don't know whether that can be done or not.
I think that is being done under the HRDF, right? So it's already done under the Human Resource Development Fund. So that is meant for training, but of course the concept is there. The concept is there. I mean, this requires the government. I think it's not something, in my view, that comes under the purview of other agencies. It's more about government. Thinking, how can we collaborate with the private sector? I guess in the case of higher education, that is quite flexible, right? Higher education can go and talk to any institution for education, but the value proposition that comes from the higher education must be something that really will benefit the company. So I believe that if something good, company will be very happy to work with the higher education.
Yeah, okay. Okay, hold on. Let me carry Dato' Aziz's question just now. regarding Malaysia is actually in the 90s is considered, we are actually better off than Korea. Bola sepak pun menang kita selalu kan. But now we are deteriorating. So I'm just getting your opinion. Do you think that those days, could say that we are more risk takers, When we are talking about currency at that time, it's only about 3.6 being pegged, maybe students understand about pegging and so on. So during that time, we are very risk taker in many ways, in terms of our economic decision, even pegging the currency, and we reluctant of taking IMF. So since you at that time were with Bank Negara, maybe we can share a little bit the advantage of, structure of the Bank Negara when we peg our currency instead of we involved with IMF. And that's probably will be one of the reason behind why we are strong at that time. Probably. Maybe you can have that comment.
Thank you. So the ASEAN miracle, as I mentioned, was there until 1997. I think Asian countries were growing more than 8%, I think, on average. I think some were growing at 12%. I think Malaysia's growth prior to that was around 8 to 12%. So surely, I think everyone was talking about the miracles. It's always the miracles. So when the crisis came in 1997, Thailand and Indonesia then came to Malaysia beginning 1998, and the pegging was done at 380 on September 1st, 1998. I think the decision that the government took at that time was not to subscribe to the IMF, simply because normally if you go under the IMF program, there's a lot of conditionality. If you look at Indonesia, the price of going through IMF was the president at that time, President Suharto, has to leave. Then there was a lot of structural changes that were made. So we didn't follow. Our formula works. I mean, if you look at the cost of managing crisis, it's a lot lesser compared to the other countries. So why is it that Korea is better than us? Okay, I mean, there's a lot of discussion about the success of Korea. I mean, they are able to come up with big companies on their own. They never rely on outside companies. If you talk about Samsung, you talk about Hyundai.
Can we relate to Dato' Aziz's ideas of innovation is actually contribute highly towards that?
Yeah, so when they started with all this industry, building their own industry, through innovation, through all this R&D, they were able to become the big players. So that was something that I believe how Korea managed to be what they are now. Of course, we used to beat them in the Pesta Bola Merdeka. I mean, but now they were in the World Cup. They were in the World Cup. We were still struggling for whatever reason. I mean, it's beyond me on that. But the point here is, certainly the R&D, the ability for you to innovate will help the economy. So the story about Samsung, the story about Hyundai is definitely something that can tell us that the one that Datuk Prof mentioned about innovation, the use of technology. So they're already big. So how they can withstand the challenges is very different because these companies are theirs. So it's not subject to potential closure. I mean, the operating model is slightly different. So the operating model is slightly different. The other one is about how do you stay competitive. I mean, automotive industry is very competitive. It's an industry that if you look at even the biggest market, China, where they produce their cars, they can now outbid even the big American companies. Yeah, I mean, those days we have GM, General Motors. Where are they now? Yeah. So, I mean, basically the innovation, the use of technology, the ability to have homegrown industry. This reliance on foreign investment is good to bring a new technology, new ideas. But at the same time, if we look at Malaysia, there are some industries that have already closed operation, moved to some other part of ASEAN.
Okay. All right. Dr. Atika want to ask question.
Okay, sorry, Datuk. Very interesting discussion just now. But I would like to go back to the previous terminology of gross national saving, GNS, which honestly I'm rarely look at that point whenever I study economy or finance, because like we want to.
They don't teach it anymore. No?
We don't do. I mean, myself will not study much on that.
I don't know. She's the lecturer in
Oh.
accounting.
You don't teach it anymore.
I mean, in terms of whenever we do research on looking financial stability, we don't look much on the GNS, gross national savings, because maybe perhaps more important factors such as to promote financial stability is to encourage corporates, households, and everyone to spend more so that money will be good in the market flow. However, I just would like to ask your opinion about the specific government incentive and policies whenever it would help effectively promote this corporate and household in terms of do a good saving. Because, like household, like Malaysian citizens itself, whenever they want to spend more, they need more, salaries, wages. And that's what our government tries to accommodate. But whenever they obtain more salary and wages, we get more and we spend more. How about saving? So in terms of that perspective, is there any specific policy and incentive that our government should do in order to promote that? Thereby, it also encourage positive gross national savings in our country. Thank you.
I think the issue about savings, if you save, you don't spend, economy does not grow. I mean, earlier I talked about GNS is more about how people those days save. We were told by our parents that you need to save because you need to save it for your old age. That is the thinking. Okay? Assuming that everyone here, given salary, don't spend. Nothing happened. So the economy does not grow. So we need that consumption. But consumption beyond means can create problem. So gross national savings typically is income minus your consumption. So whatever that is left over. But if the leftover is negative, then you would go into that situation of you're having financial imbalance. It is actually not good for the overall economy. So the idea of, government in terms of opportunity for investment, that sort of thing, is all, there's a lot of things that can be done nowadays. But more importantly is that you need to be well educated with regard to making sure that the balances that you have is used for something that will not make you regret later on. So consumption is very important. I mean, if you look at the latest report by Banagara last week, 5.9% is supported by domestic consumption. So consumption, you have the consumer and the corporate. But I mean, the concept of GNS maybe is not being explained. However, the concept of income and consumption is normally people will discuss about it. So in my view, I think everyone don't want to see the negative bank balance in that sense.
Okay, great. Okay, echoes to Afika's question. Say, for example, when all of us have a lot of money, so will be spending more. So then the supply of goods will be lesser than the demand. So that's why people are talking about when the wage increase by the of the government sectors, so the price of merchandise will increase. So in the long run, this is what economists will predict, that the supply of goods will be lesser. Orang banyak duit ni nak beli, barang tak ada. So then people are associated with barang naik, harga barang naik. It is not because gaji kita naik, barang kita naik. Tapi sebenarnya orang nak beli banyak, barang tak ada. So when the supply is less economic equilibrium, when the supply is more, permintaan banyak, supply kurang, harga akan jadi naik. So what is your advice, when it comes to this kind of situation, especially now when talking about savings also, interest rate is actually quite high, as compared to before. Is that another reason of, encouraging savings as well? Memanglah, when the interest rate is high, people will tend to save more as compared to borrowing. So what's your comment on that?
Okay, this issue about inflation pressure arising from wage, in my view, the supply side will not be really affected. Biasanya, I mean, the supply shock ni come from a different factor. The issue of potentially international, I mean, if there are imported goods, so there's this sometimes problem with the supply chain. I mean, if you look at past increase in minimum wage, the pressure on inflation is, I mean, I look at it's quite muted. It's quite muted. It's not something that will be of concern. But we will see how it goes when the government start paying the salary next year, right? January, December. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, personally, I don't think that there will be a big jump in the inflation. I mean, recently the jump in the inflation is due to the changes in the electricity, I think, and the housing price. Yeah, the electricity tariff. So not a concern. However, if wages of the private firm increase, there could be a different impact. So let's say I produce some consumer goods, and now wages increase. So do I keep the price the same, or do I increase the price of the product that I sell? So typically, chances are, a lot of people are saying that if that happens, when the private sector wages increase, prices of goods will also rise. Yeah, but government servant, I personally, I don't think that there's going to be a big impact. I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Any more question from the floor? Okay, Doctor.
My question question is more on the macro level. As you mentioned about selection and geopolitical tension between China and US. As we see, like even after the COVID, most of the economies are recovering, especially I'm talking about the global south, where there's technology there. So I just want to know your opinion as we see the far right movements, like even in France, in Germany, on the surge, and when that connection, when we talk about the cost of living is surging, not just, I mean, globally. If you talk about New York, Toronto, I mean, the global capitals, people are complaining about the cost of living, even to a certain extent in Malaysia as well, due to inflation. And then we see again the kind of tension between, I mean, the tension in the Ukraine and then the Middle East. How do you see to which extent it will kind of destabilize or create that economic turbulence due to the external factors? And then I would just reflect your attention to these global stabilizer like World Bank, IMF, like what we saw in Sri Lanka, the default is just one of the example. So the IMF was reluctant to come quickly because they knew the risk were high. Even especially in case of Pakistan, like the IMF only the Chinese only try to help in a bilateral once they see the IMF is coming, meaning that like if IMF doesn't see more guarantees, even it from the US or other, they're not going to come. So the role of these, I mean, IMF and World Bank is also questioned in so many cases where they're not, the help is not genuine in that way to help the economies, rather than it's again attached with that kind of political connection. So how do you see the future we are heading into in as you mentioned about the US election ahead, and then we see a looming cost of 34 trillion, the national debt of the US. So like small countries, you know, with not much productivity, and even we see the AI, but then again, it's need an ecosystem to work on it. So how do you see that? Thank you.
Okay, I think this is a very interesting topic that we can discuss quite a bit. I mean, if you look at the geopolitical landscape over the last 5 to 10 years, the tension among countries, I think starting from the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, and now tension in the Middle East, the impact on the economy are quite uneven. Basically, there are countries that will feel more impact than others. So it depends on how the structure of the economy. If you look at the countries in this region, the diversification of the trading partners has happened quite a bit before. So the intra-regional trades has picked up quite a bit. Of course, US, the European economy is still considered quite big for some of us here. But the intra-regional trade will in a way help as a stabilizer in that sense. Going forward, the geopolitical issue remain. And then what would be the role of the international financial institution like the IMF, the World Bank, in ensuring the international stability? And there was a lot of debate about how the IMF and the World Bank should behave going forward. I mean, you mentioned about Sri Lanka, whether IMF has come in a speedy manner or not. The World Bank, I mean, even in Pakistan also, I mean, when you look at IMF program, there are a lot of conditionality, and that conditionality sometimes may not be something that the nation can take. So there's always the element of how do you negotiate with the international financial institution to make sure that whatever condition that they are going to impose, put on you, is going to be something that is considered to be acceptable to the population. I mean, in Indonesia last time, people were angry because of certain imposition, like the certain requirement for closure of companies. Sri Lanka is also another good example, the recent case. They came in with a certain so-called imposition of requirement. And I know some of my colleagues who has operation in Sri Lanka could not bring back money because there is this control to make sure that the economy can stabilize. So going forward, is it going to be easy? It depends on all those factors that I just mentioned. Earlier I mentioned about the strengthening of governance that has taken place. That is something that is very positive. That can help nation to be able to withstand some of these challenges. The commodity price is another thing that we need to look at. The current level, is it something that is going to be sustainable or not? So many factors that we need to look at. Understanding the reason behind it is also very critical. Is to be able to have to come up with a more well-informed policies. I mean, I've been to Sri Lanka. It's a very nice country. I mean, this is a very nice place to visit. But they have gone through that period of war with with the separation of, certain parties, certain faction. Then they have gone through that the economic development with the help of some countries in terms of pumping in. But what causes the issue? I mean, people say it's about internal governance, the ability of people to be able to manage with certain check and balance.
Okay, Datuk?
Yeah.
All right. If I want to add, Dr. Aitullah question just now. If you look at on the current situation, back to the strength of our currency now, seems like the geopolitics outside our country has given us some sort of like advantage, you know. Like after Trump being shot dekat telinga tu, suddenly our currency is being dropped from 4.6 to 4.2 secara kebetulan. So just, you know, to echo back on what Dr. Dr. Ullah punya question. That's the external factors or internal factors that contribute to the strength of our currency. So if you can comment a little bit, what are the reasons behind, you know? Because I could say that it shows our economy is going to be better off, you know, because the currency is one of the indicators. So is that an external factors and internal factors that contribute to that strong currency?
Okay. Everyone pay attention to where the ringgit is. I mean, there was a lot of discussion about this. I think the exchange rate, dollar ringgit, is always there two sides. If the dollar strengthen, ringgit will go down. And sometimes it's not because the economy is not doing well. It's always that relative so-called position. Yeah, I mean, there's a finance theory about the interest rate differential effect that also have an impact on currency. So we look at the US monetary policy, the interest rate is a lot higher than Malaysia. And recently, there was a discussion about potential slowdown in the US economy. People are talking about Fed fund rate is going to go down. So that element has brought some factor to the recent strengthening of the ringgit. There's also this, from the report that I read in Bangara recently, they mentioned about the encouragement for some of the government-related agencies to bring back current for conversion. I mean, the trading volume in the market is quite healthy. I mean, daily volume, I think early of the month, it was around $20 billion, the turnover, FX turnover. So it reflects the liquidity in the market. These two factors, the interest rate differential, thinking about the Fed fund is going to go down, and also the conversion of dollar holding into ringgit help to strengthen the ringgit a bit. Going forward, I think the economy is quite strong. 4.2 in the first quarter of the year, 5.9 in the second quarter. So it's showing that the foundation is becoming very strong, and bearing any form of changes outside, support for the ringgit is there. That's my view.
So meaning that the internal factors is actually contribute highly also.
Yeah, partly because of the effort done by the government and also by the central bank.
Okay. Any more question? Okay, Prof. Rose.
Thank you very much, Dato' and Prof. Nick, Dato' Nick. Okay, my questions will relate back to the situation when you mentioned about internal governance, right? So if you look at the financial stability, so that implies we are being resilient, the financial resilience is there. However, when we go to compare ourselves and Singapore, we don't go far, yeah? Okay, so if you look at the Singapore now, the index of the economy is very high, one of the highest in the world, okay, and they have net borrowing, maknanya zero borrowing Singapore compared to us, okay, right. As a bank negara, okay, I'm referring back to the bank negara as the regulatory body in Malaysia. So today we heard about frauds, financial frauds, scammers, and those things, okay? What BNB has done actually is because this is one way of strategies to ensure more financial stability in order to combat all this financial fraud and as well as scammers, which is berleluasa lah sekarang. Because the recent forum said that kalau kita tengok the amount of money worth is actually about 10 billion ringgit yang being scammed at the moment. Okay, so that's my first questions on the issues. Okay, my second questions to you are maybe your views. Okay, relate to financial vulnerability at the rakyat level. Okay, yes, a few of the strategies to ensure financial stability like saving, controlling the interest rate, controlling the inflation rate. But if we look at the rakyat level now, okay, people are still vulnerable. Even the recent research by an academia, our index slightly better, okay, from 6 to 1, but that implies that we are still vulnerable. Maknanya masih ramai orang memboro dan bila boro tak boleh nak bayar. Okay, cannot serve the borrowing. So my question, what is your view on the first one, the bank negara punya internal governance control, your advice on this one, on the financial fraud and so forth, and the second, your views with regards to the rakyat vulnerability in terms of financial. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Prof. This is all my view. As I said, saya dah retire from Bangara, so it's all my personal view. With regard to fraud, I think this is something that the regulator, the government agencies, PDRM, put a lot of emphasis because fraud, as we know, can happen to anyone. So what is important is how do you educate people for the people to avoid being scammed. So there's a lot of education done. There's a lot of financial education done into telling people. And I think last year or 2 years back, there was a setup, the National Scam Center. I mean, the goal is very simple: is to make sure that people are aware about all these issues. And I read recently that the requirement for opening of accounts is strengthened because sometimes account is used as a mule account to help people to fraud other people. So there is a lot of effort from all angles in the society to help control or alleviate this issue about fraud. And it also relates to financial stability because it would mean that if you are exposed to a situation where you are going to be, where you're going to suffer from fraud or scam, that will lead to some consequences to the individual. So effort has been done at national level and with good financial education and even at the university also. I think this is something that the student need to be aware in terms of how to avoid, how to make sure that you are not going to be exposed to all these challenges. I mean, the second issue is about financial discipline. We're talking about financial discipline. As I mentioned in my presentation, that financial discipline, financial education comes together. Those days, people talk about predatory lending that can cause harm. Even the global financial crisis in the US, the subprime, is actually arising from bank loosening their credit criteria. So even someone who is not supposed to get credit will be given credit. So it turned into something that caused trouble to the person and also to the institution. I mean, those days when we want to go and apply for credit card, it's very easy. It's very easy. And in the US, students can get. They will send you email. They will send you email, credit card. Without, they call it a pre-approved credit card. So that kind of lending behavior of financial institution is actually bad. Because you are actually not teaching your customer the right thing. So over the years, from this lesson, it's becoming very difficult now. It's not easy to get credit card, right? Not because the banks want to make it difficult. It's actually to make sure that the right people will get the credit card because the right people will spend in the right way. And I mean, bagi para students, go and bayar, lepas tu tak boleh nak. You cannot pay. You are not able to service. Then you end up having piles of unpaid loans. That's why we created AKBK, agency counseling. Yeah, to counsel people, that you need to behave.
Tapi kan Datuk, kalau kita tengok, if we were to compare ourselves in terms of financial stability, the best country in the world at the moment, the highest is Switzerland, okay? Because they managed to. Do you think, so what is your advice? Kalau Switzerland can really for the past many years until 2023 is the highest financial stability compared even to Singapore. Their inflation rate is very minimum, employment rate very minimum. So what can we learn? What is your advice for you as a experienced person in this field?
I mean, I wouldn't compare. I use Switzerland, Prof. I think Switzerland has got also some dark history with regard to certain activity that they have done. I mean, the structure of countries are very different. I mean, the tax structure is very different. It's different. I mean, even to compare with Singapore, Singapore is a small republic. Where else? Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, big population. The dimension of challenges is very different. So, I mean, if you look at financial sector, Malaysia is considered to be among the top. Look at the numbers that we have. Over the years, from crisis time until now, the system has strengthened. Switzerland has come under scrutiny for certain activity.
Okay. All right, don't comment of other countries. So maybe we are apple, they are orange. Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I would like to also echo Prof. Rosina's question. In your opinion of being bank government chief operation officer, I could say. Is it chief operating officer?
I mean,
Yeah.
I will explain a bit afterwards.
Okay.
What is that?
Do you think that the regulatory bodies or system or framework that we've got at whatever, not just Bank Negara, but any body that govern economics and so on in Malaysia is effective and efficient? And do you think? I mean, to be frank, do we do the right thing? Or if we fail, where do you think and when is, from your experience that we used to fail, but, it's only you knows and, rakyat just like, oh, it's just market circulation, but it's actually failure in our internal governance actually. Do you have that experience?
Okay. The question is, are we on the right track? Are we having the right framework?
Correct.
Are we having as I mentioned earlier, I mean, the lesson from past issue that we face, overall, if we look at the key institution in Malaysia that relates to financial sector, so you will have the central bank, the Securities Commission, the internal setup, in my view, has really served the purpose. And my understanding is that many countries make reference to us. I mean, they come here and talk to us, look at what we have done, trying to learn from us. Personal experience, I've been talking to one international consulting firm who wanted to help countries in Middle East. So they wanted to get some advice on some area of central bank. So, I mean, from that conversation, I can really see that we are far ahead on many areas. My involvement last time in international department, talking to some of colleagues in other areas of in other central bank. Many central bank in this region, I think they have done well in terms of keeping up with the international regulation. Talk about the Basel capital requirement. I think we have been able to really follow that requirement. And if we go to the IMF website, the financial sector assessment program that was done first time, I think like 10 years ago, really show that the financial system in Malaysia has moved to a level that can really support the requirement of the economy. Not only that, international. One aspect, the Islamic side, also we are quite ahead. So yes, in terms of the current structure that we have, that in my opinion, we are okay. We are okay. Yeah. Of course, new development, you talk about the innovative, the use of technology, digital, that is something that we always need to consistently renew ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, in anything that we do, if you don't renew yourself, you become stale.
Yeah, and obsolete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We are 12 plus. Maybe we start at 12:30. They said 1 o'clock, but 1 o'clock is until lunch actually. But anyway, I would like to open to question. Any more? Anyone else wants to ask question first? If nobody, then I will get to the Puan Azian. Nobody? Okay, sila, Puan Azian.
Datuk, regarding Prof. Rosina's issue on fraud and scam, okay? How do Bank Negara view, because under the Banking Act, we bankers, we have our compliance, our regulations, how to do work. Now, lately, from the past case of the MBSB, 24 million fraud, how does Bank Negara view that? Because to me, it's the auditors will come every year to check our accounts, you know, how we work, what money goes out and come in and all that. And definitely they will find any fraud issues regarding any bank for that matter. As far as myself in Maybank, you know, we go under compliance of audit. So how can a bank allow staff to withdraw up to 24 million fraud over a period of time? Now, how do Bank Negara view this trend? Thank you, Dato'.
I'll give my personal opinion. Personal opinion.
Not on behalf of Bank
No,
Negara.
no. So, in anything that we do, it's about the integrity. So, anything can happen within an institution. If you look at cases of corporate failure, remember the Nick Leeson last time in Singapore. He forged the document. He forged the document to ask the head office to send more money. Bearings. Quite famous case in Singapore, Nick Leeson.
What year was that?
That was
Why I didn't
85, 6, 7. Huh? No, I think maybe early 90s maybe. It's a famous case. So it's the integrity of the institution, of the individual. So, I mean, I don't want to talk about the individual case that you mentioned just now, but ultimately, no matter how good your system is, how good your governance is, if the people wants to find loophole, people will find loophole. So the role of the auditor, the internal compliance is very critical. So who should you fault? Who should you fault if cases like that happen? The Enron case that I mentioned, the auditor, the external auditor, also did something. So the failure of Lehman Brothers, if you look at the history of Lehman Brothers, why they fail, because they go on certain loophole regarding, it's quite technical, the repo 105 rules, where there is certain thing that you can use in the, you can actually do some accounting, creative accounting, and the accountant of that company, of Lehman Brothers, I think, was, no, the internal, the CFO, actually was not very happy, but I think he got fired. So the point I'm making here is, governance is there, but if you don't have the people that are so honest, it can be very challenging. It can be very challenging. There have been a lot of cases that are quite similar to what you just mentioned. I think the impact is on how customer would trust the institution. So when there is a trust deficit, to build back is going to be very challenging. Not an easy so-called area to really have a airtight control. Not easy. You're talking about individual. I mean, people make false claim. People make all kind of things. I mean, there are a lot of cases like that. This is a case of cheating, fraud.
Sometimes when people are too smart, you know, financial education, they're beyond the financial education. Okay, related to fraud, you know, currently we have so many ways of investing, so many ways of making money through cryptocurrency, through blockchain, and you know, nowadays is about investing in gold, especially financial gold. So what is your take on that? Maybe, you know, give some advice. Where is the stand of cryptocurrency in the regulatory of Bank Negara? I do invest in blockchain. Mana Nick? Nick is one of my good partner for investing. It's making good money. But I just wonder, you know, whether it's legal or is it being regulated under the Bank Negara? And who knows, eventually it will be one of the scammers as well. But as for now, still going on. Okay lah, boleh lah duit sikit-sikit. But yeah, when negara regulation on that, will it being legal?
I think there was Bank Negara issued some press release on this coins, I think, quite some time ago, that we don't recognize as a legal tender. Investment side, I mean, if you are really a sophisticated investor, I'm sure you understand the risk. If it is allowed, by all means, do it. I mean, check properly. It's very hard to know until the end. I mean, if you look at recent, people talk about some investment in gold. In the past, there were cases of cheating. After a while, you cannot repay the customer. I'm a risk-averse investor. I don't want to have sleepless night. I don't want to. So basically, my risk appetite is very low. For some people, I mean, they can be really risk taker. They go into the forex market, go into all this new so-called investment channels. I mean, if it is really recognized, it's something that is recognized by the regulator. I mean, you can do it, but do it with a clear understanding of risk. Some people don't. I mean, hear the friends say, okay, this one can really make money. I just put in 1,000, I got 2,000. That happens, you know. Pak Mantelo, those days. Very famous. Not my friend, my friend's friend, who I met, said, I made a lot of money, you know, I don't care about other people. That's what he said, you know. I said, okay. I mean,
there's got a lot like Swiss fund, Swiss fund, you know, that fund.
Yeah, so I'm always worried about all this so-called very unclear kind of investment. So do it with clarity, understand the product, make sure that it is recognized by a regulator. Recently, there was a raid by Bank Negara and also Kementerian KPDN KK on one of the Xbox or something like that. Came out in the news. Then there's also another trading platform that is not recognized. So there was also another scam. I mean, people from outside that scam international investor. So there's many things, a lot of things. So we have to be careful. Yeah.
So many people, like I said, very intelligent, very smart of doing this.
Yeah.
They have knowledge in finance, but they didn't do it for a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, probably I think this last. Any question from the online? Ada soalan tak daripada online?
Bitcoin. Sekarang ni, there's no law yang actually ada salah. That is the thing when Datuk say we need to recognize, or I don't know, what is the initiative?
No,
but-
maksud saya recognize here. If it is set up outside Malaysia, we need to know that the formation of that investment from where. No, because if I can just set up an investment scheme, I claim it that it is a crypto. So that, I mean, you don't know. You don't know who are the so-called the person behind it. And
Sekarang ni kalau we make money, profit,
Because if you lose also, you don't have to. So that's why gain from shares and whatsoever is not taxable yet in Malaysia, because otherwise rugi pun kena tolak daripada pendapatan. So I think that's the standing lah. Okay, ada soalan ke from the?
No.
No. Okay. Saya buka lagi sebelum Datuk wrap up. Okay, kalau tak ada, Datuk, okay.
salam.
Sana Datuk. Duduklah senang sikit.
Okay.
This is our second meeting.
Yeah.
It seems that you're more happier. It's more happy than last time we met. After retired from the Bank Negara.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Of course.
Now it's about deregulation because you talk. I think you mentioned a couple of times Alan Greenspan name, and he admitted the market failure. And when market fail, that means the deregulation movement also some sort under scrutinized. Right now, moving forward is about this all digital financial transaction, digital banks and all that. So that means they want to get away from somehow bit of regulation under BAFIA and all that. You know? So how do you see this move forward about deregulation and perhaps control it to cushion any risk arises from that movement, I would say. Thank you.
So it's about deregulation versus, in my view, no regulation. Okay, yeah? So a free market sometimes can mean no regulation. So I do what is right, I leave it to the market, and I assume that market will work. Market will correct itself. But in certain situation, it may not be the case. Deregulation, if we look at, I think in Malaysia also there are a couple of liberalization that we have undertaken. So you have regulation, but when the market is ready, When the market structure is already there, governance is already there, so you deregulate. You leave it to the market. But when you deregulate, you also need to have a sense of what's happening. You need to have data. You need to do some surveillance. Because anything that happens after you have done certain deregulation that may not be meeting your original objective, there is some tweaking that needs to be done. In the case of what Alan Greenspan said in 2008 at the congressional hearing, where he said that he was surprised, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I mean, we understand that US market is very free. You can do whatever that is right. I mean, so you can more or less, it's really up to you. Then they introduce some regulation after that. But the question is, does that regulation cause business to stifle? There's difficulty in business or not? Are you doing it because you want to make sure that you understand what's going on? So it depends on the intent of the regulation. So, I mean, in the nutshell, there's some so-called monitoring that needs to be done, surveillance needs to be done. I mean, now the world is becoming a lot more connected. Market is becoming, I mean, intertwined. I mean, the spillover coming from all kinds of places. So you really need to understand. 1997, the Thai issue was created when there was no regulation relating to companies borrowing from outside. So people are free to borrow, get money from outside. So there was nothing. There was no control. The IMF or ADB mentioned that the fact that there's this too flexible environment created this moral hazard. Moral hazard that people are not, they are not disciplined. So the pace of deregulation or liberalization must be done in accordance with the readiness of the country. If you're not ready, you cannot deregulate. If the structure that you have internally is not there to support the changes that you're making, you might have problem later on. So, I mean, regulation, deregulation, whether you know regulation is something that needs to be looked into, whether you are ready or not. It's just like ourselves. Okay, you have your children. Sometimes if your children behave, you know that they will never do something. So you no regulation. You have got no regulation. You leave it to them, fully independent. But if the children is, you assess that the person, I mean, your child is not going to behave. So maybe you have some regulation. So when your child behave, then you can deregulate. It's something like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to all the questions asked by the audience.
I hope I have answered the question.
Yeah, very, very. I think it's just like you are, reading in the text or something like that. It's very clear, the definition and everything. Okay, for conclusion.
No, I just wanted to mention about my work in Banagara. Okay, the chief services officer. I mean, it's nothing to do with the core mandate of the bank. Nothing. 2018, the governor at that time asked me to look at this new, this support section of the bank. So now I'm really interested into transformation, change, coaching, helping people to get the better of themselves. So from that 4 years, looking at that sector in the bank. Before that, it was mainly in the financial market, international investment. So you mentioned that you teach investment decision. That is an area that really, kalau orang kata spark your eyes lah, you rasa, oh.
So don't worry, Fika. I won't be around yet. Datuk
So,
ada.
I was masa dekat New York dulu, looking at the New York market, doing some for reserve management.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like you said, there are a lot of new things about decision when it comes to
Yeah,
investment.
yeah.
Okay, Datuk, ada 5 minit lagi. Mungkin Datuk boleh conclude. Just a little bit that I want you to highlight. We are no longer should talk about financial stability. We want to talk about financial growth. So where are we, Malaysia? Bila agaknya nak jadi negara berpendapatan tinggi ni? So how should we, embark into it? So conclude, jangan banyak, ada 5 minit aja.
Okay.
But looking beyond, and we want, the regulators, individuals start to back up so that we are reaching, kalau bukan Vision 2020 pun, Islam Hadari ke whatever, we are eyeing for being nations that with high income. Yeah.
I mean, this is where, in my view, everyone has got to come together, bring all the minds together, work hard. It's about working hard, working productively. I think the plans that we have is all very good, but the translation into action is something that we really need to focus on. I mean, the economy, as I said earlier, is in the right trajectory. So how do we do more? I mean, the role of each part of the economy has got to be enhanced. Even like the education, the higher education, what is it that the higher education institutions should play in terms of enhancing the required skill? So putting all these things, and with the effort of the government, I am quite confident that we are moving in the right direction. And the journey is not going to be short. It's a long haul journey. And sometimes the journey can be on a very bumpy road. So it's how you strengthen your resilience to move forward. That is something, in my view, is very important. So I hope that we all can work together to see a better Malaysia. I think that always when we talk to foreign, when I met some of my foreign friends, I think they're quite positive in terms of what Malaysia has to offer. So it's more about us getting ready to meet all those opportunities. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Datuk. Thank you so much for everyone also. Let's give a big applause to Datuk. I think MGSEB also congratulations for organizing such a very fruitful discussion. Dan tak seritlah Datuk datang lagi ya. Okay, with that I pass the mic, I pass the floor to Atika. Sila
Thank
Atika.
you, Prof. Datuk Ni.
There's any question from faculty, student, can text me.
Yeah.
I can share my number. It's okay.
Okay. Okay.
You know, if I converse, I thought I learn also. It's always that two way.
Yeah, very effective and constructive debate we have today. So, today's Mgseb Biztalk has provided us with a deeper understanding of the critical role that regulators play in ensuring financial stability. Through the insights shared by Datuk Shamsuddin, we've gained valuable perspective on how financial policy are shaped and the importance of maintaining stability in an ever-evolving global economy. This discussion has underscored the need of vigilant and adaptive regulation to safeguard our financial systems, benefiting not only policymakers, but all of us who are impacted by their decision. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of our session. On behalf of the On behalf of the organizing committee, which is MGSAB, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to all participants, distinguished speaker Datuk Shamsuddin Mohd Mahayidin, for sharing his invaluable insight and unique perspective on the importance of financial stability, the role of regulators. Your expertise and thoughtful analysis have provided us with much to consider as we navigate the complexities of financial stability. We also extend our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed moderator, Professor Datuk Nik Mahiran binti Nik Muhammad, for expertly guiding today's discussion. To all our participants, both here in person and those joining us virtually, thank you for your active participation and thoughtful questions. Your engagement is what makes these sessions truly impactful. As a key takeaway from today's Biztalk, we are reminded of the crucial role regulators play in maintaining financial stability, ensuring economic growth, and safeguarding our financial system. So before we close, I kindly remind everyone to fill in the attendance form. The link has been shared just now, and your participation today will be counted as our training credit or training hours. Before I end this session, I would like to extend our apologize for any shortcomings arise along this session. And can we have our group photo outside this venue? Can we? Okay, please. Okay, I would like to take this opportunity to thanks to all of you, and I end with this session with wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, please, we go outside to take our group photo.